said the 9-pointer come into 20 yards.
I just fucking smoked him.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Borderland Pursuits. I'm Brett Messini here with my fellow hosts,
Steve Palace,
Sam Stenners.
Today we're going to talk about what our brand and podcast is all about and what drives us in the outdoors. I think the best way to do this is to go around the horn, introduce ourselves and how we got into the outdoors and what we're passionate about today.
I guess I'll start. My name is Sam Stenners, originally from northern Wisconsin. Just recently moved down to the northeast suburb of the Minneapolis-St. Paul area because of my beautiful fiance. I can thank her for that. But at a very young age, I was into racing motocross, kind of snowboarding, skiing, kind of anything outdoors, which then escalated into getting into hunting when I was 18. Took hunter safety at that point, and I've been deer hunting and waterfowl hunting and bird hunting ever since then. Got into bow hunting, I think it was 2019 is when I finally bought a bow and got into bow hunting, and that's a love-hate relationship with that sport, but that's kind of my background and whatnot, and I'll pass it over to Steven.
Yeah, so I kind of got into hunting, fishing, outdoor stuff a little bit more in high school. That was more so from friend influence. I mean, I would tag along with my dad and stuff during rifle season, but I didn't really get too into it myself until high school. And as far as bow hunting and whatnot, I bought my first bow after my first deployment and kind of got into shooting on base in California quite a bit because there was nothing else to do besides drink in the barracks. So, yeah, we'd go and shoot quite a bit. Tried a little bit of western hunting out there for the first time, which was a complete shit show for black bear in the sequoias. But since then, moved back, shot a buck with my bow in 2017 back here in Wisconsin. And then I had a few years with bad shots, misses. I think it went till 2021, so it was about a 3-year gap without shooting something because it was a hack. I was on the whole pull your bow out of your case 2 weeks before the season type thing, and that wasn't a good way to go. And then me and Sam went out west 2021 for the first time. Got completely addicted from there, started listening to some podcasts and started doing the whole shoot year-round type thing, and then the success kind of turned around from there, I'd say. But by no means big bucks. I have a hard time passing up on the basket eights, as everyone knows, but it's getting a little bit better. But besides that, haven't been fishing too much lately. Was into that for quite a bit, but the bow addiction has definitely taken over in the past few years for me. And I gotta say thanks to my wife for supporting that because I probably hunt more than she'd like, but she also likes having multiple deer in the freezer, so.
Got to feed the family.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I got into hunting probably about 8 or 9 years old from my dad and my grandpa. Did all my first sits with my dad in his rifle stand in northern Wisconsin. My grandpa was one that got me into archery. He was big time into archery, rifle hunting. He was a bear hunter also, just kind of shooting at anything he could find in the woods. Got me my first bow when I was 12, so I've been archery hunting since I was 12, right after I got done with hunter safety. Kind of just fell in love with it from day one. I didn't shoot anything for 5 years. I missed multiple does 4 years in a row and didn't even see a buck for 4 or 5 years, and it was a little rough on the mind, but kept going because Grandpa was so passionate about it, and I just wanted to kind of do everything like he did. When I finally got my driver's license, turned 16, I really started chasing more deer around, and that's when I shot my first buck, and it was a beautiful 11-pointer, and I've kind of been hooked since on trying to chase the biggest whitetails I can find. Steven and Sam both got me into the elk world a little bit. They kind of just didn't shut up about chasing elk. And I fell in love with the idea of it and made my first trip to Colorado this last fall. Didn't have any luck, but got into some elk, and yeah, I'm just hooked all about chasing tail.
All across the country.
All across the country.
And you're a pilot as well.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that.
We forgot that segment.
Yeah, aviation, another big passion of mine. My other grandpa has been a pilot for the last 60 years, I want to say. So I got into that at a very young age and got my private pilot license and my seaplane rating, and now we fly up to Canada and chase walleye, and it's a good time. And a little addition to that, I got into aviation maintenance just to hopefully someday help cut down the costs of my own airplane maintenance. And it's fun. It's a rewarding job seeing what your two hands can do and put something up in the air and fly. So, yeah.
That is the shitty part about hunting is you have to actually work to make money to do so because the bows aren't cheap.
No,
And vacation time.
vacation time, equipment costs, time away from family. It's all pretty taxing on people who are very driven to do it.
Yep.
You get your weekend warriors out there who, like you said, when you started out, pull the bow out of the case 2 weeks before the season and get out there and hack up the woods.
Yeah.
But once you really kind of fall in love with the sport itself and kind of takes over everything, and you just want to consistently get better, learn more about what you're doing, keep building on it.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to touch on, because you hear a lot of different opinions on a lot of different podcasts on what the right and wrong way of hunting is, and I think our mindset's kind of similar, is not really having a wrong way. I mean, there's going to be the people that do pull their bow or rifle out of the case right before season. If it's brown, it's down. There's the people that are going to criticize everyone else if they don't shoot a 140, 150 inch buck. But I think there's the people in the middle, kind of like us, that just want to spend the time in the woods, and sure, we'll pass up small ones early on this season, chasing a bigger one on cam, but at the end of the day, it comes down to putting that time in the stand and just getting something to be able to tell the stories year after year. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'd rather get something every year. I don't care if it's a small basket 8 or if it's a giant, but it just adds up to the stories to tell, I guess, from there. And because it's like hunting as a whole, right? Not just people criticizing each way of how everyone likes to do it, because the people that want to shoot a spike are equally as happy about getting a spike as the people who shoot a 160-inch buck.
Absolutely. I think kind of what really drives us with that belief, though, is all starting out hunting in northern Wisconsin. It was, still is. Yeah, the wolf sanctuary. Nobody wants to believe it, but there's a lot more wolves in northern Wisconsin than we talk about.
Steven, I've seen them with their 2 eyes,
Yeah.
5 yards apart in the swamp.
It's not fun. But yeah, back to the shoot what you want idea. Northern Wisconsin, you're heavily pressured lands where there's beautiful whitetails running around. There's big bucks, no doubt, but the amount of people that you have pressure in the areas, and everyone is there and wants to bring meat home for the family, more or less. And so you kind of got to pick and choose where you want to be. So yeah, absolutely. In the beginning of the season, I'm passing up pretty nice 8-pointers, like your typical northern Wisconsin 8-pointer. Anyone would be happy with a nice buck like that, and kind of kicking myself even right now from passing up some of these deer this year. But as the season moves on, yeah, I'm gonna put some meat in the freezer and get a little bit more into what else we're passionate about for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Like
And
I
at the end
said,
of the day,
big time into
it's your tag.
aviation
Shoot what
world.
makes you happy. That's what it comes down to.
Specifically seaplanes. Cessna 180 has my heart. It's what my grandpa flies, so I've definitely grown very fond of that plane. And flying up into the Canada and chasing walleyes and kind of portaging around the smaller lakes up there is a blast. Something I enjoy doing all summer long, and then in the winters we have to trailer the snowmobiles up, and then we got about a 20-mile trek on the snowmobiles to even get in the lake that the cabin's at. Walleyes, airplanes, chasing whitetails, now a little bit in the elk world. Steven's definitely got me more into being more proficient with my bow, learning a lot more about tuning my bow, shooting more consistently, spending a lot more time just remembering the process on each shot. Yeah, that's where I'm really growing at.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the big thing with me, like talked about earlier, coming back in 2021 and kind of learning that not being prepared isn't going to cut it, because if Sam remembers, we pull into camp day one, I'm fucking around with my bow sight, and then I'm like, oh, fuck, it's fucked up. And then I end up stripping a screw out and completely swapping out my bow sight on the fly. And thank God that year we didn't have any shot opportunities. But then came back and we started listening to more podcasts and stuff, right? It was people like the Kafaru podcast, Elk Shape, Podium Archer, people that really kind of emphasized on being proficient with shooting and working on your own bows and going from there. That kind of drove me to obsess over it. But a big struggle too is finding a bow shop that you can trust, right? Because I kind of went through that struggle hopping around bow shops around the metro, bring it to one just to go shoot it for the first time after getting new strings on and the peep flies off. Bring it to a different one and he tells me my brand new strings on my bow and my timing's all fucked up before finally settling for an archery shop that was worth a shit and figure it out. But that just helped drive me to want to do shit myself, right? And at this point, I haven't been to a bow shop in over a year now, I guess a year and a half, just learning how to tinker on my own and watching the YouTube videos from the guys like MFJJ and Elk Shape and whatnot. I guess a lot of credit due to those guys. But
I'm definitely not at that point with my archery setup, my skills of setting up my own bow. But I feel pretty lucky being from northern Wisconsin. I'm pretty close to a pretty darn good archery shop. I've never had any issues, and I don't know if I want to name drop them right now, but they have one guy who works there who is just 100% all he cares about is archery. He is dialed in on what he does. So meeting him and any question I have, he is 100% there to help me. So I feel pretty lucky to have a good bow shop since I'm not at the point yet with my own setup to do my own things, and the kind of the courage to do it, because it's scary to work on a bow, tune it, adjust it, all these things yourself. Go out there, yeah, I could be hitting that target, but it's kind of lingering in the back of my head is this something that I really feel confident in taking into the woods, trying to kill an animal with my skills right now. So
I mean, I'm no expert by all means, but know enough to be dangerous, I guess. But I'm not trying, I live down in western Wisconsin, so I'm not saying there's no good bow shops, because A1 Archery, I'll name drop, they are a good shop, and they were kind of the last one I settled on, and all their people there are phenomenal. But if you start going into the metro, it might get a little dicey, or even a little north of the metro. But I'm not trying to talk trash on bow shops, but I'm just saying personal experience and stuff. Well, it just comes down to moving around and finding the right one that you can trust and it's going to work with you.
I think that goes for just about any industry, though. You're definitely going to have, think about bringing your car to a mechanic. You're going to have a mechanic who's going to just, I'll take you in and take your money and run and leave you with what you got. Not really care about the setup that they're giving you, and then go to the next guy and they're going to be, what is this guy talking about? What is this guy doing? I'll get you set up. I'll get you hooked up. I don't care about the time it's going to take. We're going to make sure you're set up right and get you on your way.
And it's you want to trust your equipment. When you're in the stand, you can pull back. If you don't trust your equipment, you're going to be second guessing every part of your shop process. So it's like I drive 45 minutes to a bow shop that I trust, and I've never had an issue with them. And
absolutely,
just kind of like you said, there are good shops, there are bad shops, and it goes in any industry. You got to find someone you can trust.
Yeah,
I'd like to kind of roll this into a little bit more about where we want to be moving forward as the Borderland Pursuit podcast. We're hunters. That's number one. That's first. Chase and tail across America. Like, that's what we're going to continue to strive for and do. We're fishermen.
Some of us.
Some of us are just poor fishermen. We're still fishermen, but just in the outdoors. I think Sam might have mentioned before, but he's big into winter sports and just being physically fit, trying to be physically fit year round. And as Steve has many other passions, we're sitting here in our makeshift podcast studio, and we got gym equipment around. There's ATVs. got snowmobiles, boats, like anything you can imagine outdoors. We're kind of just chasing after it and just trying to enjoy life by being outside.
Yeah, and I think you'll kind of catch each one of us having our individual passions more so too on the socials and different videos we put out and whatnot. And on the podcast, we'll probably talk about a little bit of everything here and there, but you'll, I think, definitely be able to tell what each one of us is most passionate about and whatnot. But yeah, it'll be fun.
Mm-hmm. We didn't pick cheap hobbies. They're all
No.
pretty
No, cheap hobbies aren't fun. That's really what it comes down to.
I remember Brett asking me about going out west, and I was like, it's addicting, but it's not cheap.
That's where I need to definitely thank my wife for the time I've spent just this last year, just getting into elk hunting, and the little bit of working out I did definitely didn't do enough. Or once I got to the mountains, I found out I didn't do enough, even though I felt like I was in pretty good shape back home.
It's all mental.
Definitely a lot of mental strength is what it came down to.
It's 90% mental and 10% altitude.
Yeah.
You can't really be mental over the altitude when you're shitting your guts out on the side of the mountain.
That's one guy here. So maybe it's one of three gets that altitude sickness. I don't know.
Hasn't
the stats,
affected me yet. I think it's all hocus
It
pocus.
affects you, and you have to hand me your shitter paper out of your bag
On the side of a mountain.
when we're 200 yards away from a bull bugling at us.
You can't hold it for 20 more minutes.
We didn't get that on film though, so you're welcome.
You had to be there. It's one of those things.
One of
like,
those experiences that I think every hunter goes through, though, whether it's altitude sickness or that meal they ate the night before, and you're walking to your deer stand or you're hiking up that mountain. It's life. It's gonna happen to everyone.
swinging a quick trip at 4 a.m.
Yeah, quick trip, that'll get you. Those breakfast Sammies, they're too good.
Sometimes the liquid carbs take a little effect on you in the morning too.
Yeah, that's why. Not to get too off topic here, but I wanted to ask you guys when you're elk hunting, do you drink a lot of beer when you're back at camp, or do you try to?
I think at most I'd have a beer a night after you get back.
Same thing. Just have a beer, have a rehydrated meal, and hit the sack and go to bed.
I think when Dylan and I were out there, we went the first 3 days without having any because we were just hooked on.
I really thought you guys were gonna have like a
to-
kill bottle the first night just from being out there.
I brought a kill bottle with. It is sadly still sitting at home on the bar because I have yet to fill a tag this season. So no, it didn't get opened at elk camp, and it's still whitetail hunting has not happened either. So
I have 2 little kill bottles in my backpack right now that are unopened, and
hey,
there's still a lot of time left.
a lot of time left in the year. I didn't kill last year until the last day before last of the archery season. So just got to keep getting after it.
Well, and just like it's a mental grind hunting around here too. Like it's not just out west; it's the whole thing. It's you can put in days and days in the deer stand, and like we were talking earlier, pass on little bucks, and it's mental to a point.
Yeah, it all comes down to creating your own opportunities too. The amount of time you put in the stand, the amount of time you put into scouting. I mean, that for us, when we hunted up north further, me and Sam, I guess specifically, it was finding the right spots, and then you sit in your stand, and then all of a sudden there's another guy 100 yards away from you that you didn't even know was going to be there. But I mean, we'll talk about that too a little bit. Even find like the lease aspect, the public land aspect. Just trying to hop around, but I guess for like me and Sam, it made more sense for us to go a lease route, further southern, I guess, east central Wisconsin, just because that's where we ended up kind of living, and it was a little bit closer, and it just made more sense, I guess. But it's kind of comes down to what you can afford, how much time you got, and I guess how passionate you are about hunting too, because like we already talked about, there are going to be the people that get out there, opening week a rifle, and that's what they like to do, and that's fine. But for the people that kind of have the addiction, that's when the time factor comes into it.
Yeah.
The more time you put in, probably the better results you're going to have.
And that's where I've been very blessed with saving a lot of my leave from work, putting it towards whitetail season, now elk season.
You mean PTO?
My PTO from work, yeah. But just being able to have that time to put in, and then a wife who is just passionate about my passions, which is just a blessing to have. That just can't be thankful enough for that. But
They may
I put,
question it when we get out of bed at 4 a.m. to go sit in a deer stand and freeze, but
absolutely. Or when I come home and I'm frozen for the next 4 hours after a sit, and she's like, "Why do you do this to yourself?"
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I love big whitetails. I love all whitetails, but
I just get criticized when I don't shoot something. Like, you haven't put another one in the freezer yet? Oh.
so you got a wife and a kid to feed. What are you doing?
if you haven't seen him, he eats quite a bit.
Yeah, he does.
But I think we're gonna wrap this one up here, and pretty excited going forward. Keep talking about what we're passionate about, and yeah,
Couple recap videos coming up from the seasons, and
yeah, we got a recap video from my whitetail last year. We got a few kill videos from this season already, and we're pretty excited going forward and keep producing more videos as we learn how to video our hunts.
And just as a disclosure, these videos are not the best edited. We are amateurs.
We are amateur videographers. We are amateur podcasters. We are intermediate hunters. That's who we are,
Yep.
and that's what we're bringing to the table. So, thanks for listening to Borderland Pursuits.